We are now on to the last chapter, chapter 120, which wraps up the whole book. In this chapter, it's revealed that the Jia family's fortunes will be restored, bringing the story full circle. The sequel part refers back to Chao Shuichin to show the connection between the last 40 chapters and the first 80 chapters. The ending was written in a way that beautifully echoes the poem from the first chapter. Now, let's take some time to discuss the important characters in Dream of the Red Chamber. In the field of readology, there are different stages of study. First, there's the stage of hidden readology, then the stage of philological readology, and finally the stage of class analysis readology, which is the mainstream approach. But there's also a school of criticism in readology, and many critics belong to this school. In fact, anyone can write their own comments when reading Dream of the Red Chamber, you know? Some critics in the school of criticism have made significant achievements, which led to the publication of the book, Three Schools of Criticism, Dream of the Red Chamber, by Shanghai Ancient Books Publishing House. I always suggest people take a look at it. In that book, I read the general evaluation of the characters in Dream of the Red Chamber, which is a collection of comments and opinions. Let's start by discussing how Tu Ying, 19th century, compares Baochai and Daiyu in Dream of the Red Chamber. It's a really important topic when reading the book. Tu Ying describes Baochai as gentle and soft, while Daiyu is strong-willed and stubborn. Baochai is flexible, but Daiyu is straightforward. Baochai is willing to make sacrifices for love, showing that she understands how the world works. On the other hand, Daiyu doesn't care about what others think and acts like she's from a different world. Baochai knows how to win people over, while Daiyu believes in fate and doesn't bother with appearances. I think this comparison makes a lot of sense. Of course, Daiyu also hopes to be with Baoyu in the future, but she doesn't try to manipulate people or care about putting up a facade. She only cares about the authenticity of her love for Baoyu. Meanwhile, Baochai focuses on maintaining a good reputation. Comparing Daiyu to a celestial being and Baochai to someone who cares about appearances really captures the essence of their characters. Let's keep going and take a look at Tu Ying's praise of characters in the Red Chamber. I'll first share Tu Ying's thoughts, and then give my own opinion. So, how does Tu Ying describe Daiyu? He says, if someone is not admired by their peers, then we can truly know their character. It's not hard to imagine someone like Daiyu, who isn't really admired by those around her. Tu Ying says, Lin Daiyu's moral character and talents are the best in Dream of the Red Chamber, and she is an unparalleled character. We see all of her actions, but she fails to gain the favor of her sisters or her maternal aunt. Even Lady Wang doesn't like her, and she is not accepted by her maternal grandmother. Later on, even grandmother Jia gives up on her. Tu Ying goes on to say, it is said that those who are unique and exceptional often face adversity. Just like the saying goes, a tree that stands tall in the forest will be blown down by the wind, a rock that juts out of the shoreline will be eroded by the waves, and a person who surpasses others will face opposition from the masses. This is the natural law. So, when Daiyu dies. This critique highlights the tragic ending for Daiyu. Is being unique and exceptional a reason for her isolation? I disagree with that notion. My critique is that this argument only focuses on one aspect and ignores the other side of the story. Let's ask why Daiyu couldn't win people over. Was it just because she was exceptionally talented? No, that's not the only reason. In real life, if we come across someone who is highly talented, it doesn't necessarily mean we won't like them, right? Sometimes, we admire and appreciate them, finding them quite charming. That's how I see it. If Baoyu hadn't met Baochai, would Daiyu have faced such a difficult situation? Once Baochai entered the scene, how could Daiyu avoid her tragic fate? If she didn't die, it would mean that Daiyu had to compete with Baochai. What would it mean if Daiyu competed against Baochai? It means we hope Daiyu could surpass Baochai in some way. But if that were the case, would she still be Daiyu? That's how I understand it. It's logically simple, isn't it? When you encounter someone like Baochai, can you really outshine her? How is that possible? To surpass Baochai would mean becoming a character like her, but with even greater abilities. In that case, would you still be called Daiyu? This doesn't mean that Baochai is a bad person. It's not about putting Daiyu in bad light. It's about the two different principles they represent. When they meet, one is Daiyu, who lives in pure emotions, while the other is Baochai, who understands worldly affairs keenly. Unfortunately, they meet and share a common goal, being with Baoyu. So, who will live and who will die? Sure, let's take a closer look at what Tu Ying says about Baochai. According to Tu Ying, when it comes to understanding a person, you have to pay attention to the details. Baochai is described as calm, cautious, serene, and elegant. When you look at her, she gives off a warm and pleasant vibe, like the feeling of spring. She possesses the craftiness of Fengjia, the wisdom of Daiyu, the boldness of Shangyun, and the gentleness of Shiren. She can adapt to different types of people and tolerate their unique qualities. She can handle Fengjia's craftiness, Daiyu's intelligence, Shangyun's boldness, and Shiren's slyness. However, she ends up killing Baoyu's infatuation and forgetting their childhood bond, which is a significant plot point that happens later on in the story. In one instance, Baoyu initially believed that he had married Lin Daiyu, but later discovered it was Baochai. Naturally, he wanted to know how Lin Daiyu was doing and became emotional, crying and insisting on seeing her. In this situation, Baochai decisively told him that Lin Daiyu had passed away. Granny Jia and Lady Wang were both worried and thought she was too rash. They feared that Baoyu might collapse upon hearing the news and blamed Baochai for her actions. However, Baochai's decision to cut Baoyu's ties with the past was the right one. She also took initiative to quickly arrange for Zuyan to get married. Why? Because when Baoyu sees Xueyan, he is reminded of Daiyu. Xueyan came to the Jia family from Suzhou along with Daiyu, and she had spent more time with Daiyu than Zichuan. So, when Baoyu sees Xueyan, he can't help but think of Daiyu. Baochai's actions can be seen as a way of severing emotional ties with someone from the past. Tu Ying describes this kind of person as warm-faced but cold-hearted, like transitioning from spring to autumn. What does that mean? Spring refers to Baochai's pleasant appearance and facial expressions, which give off a warm and caring impression. On the other hand, autumn represents her actual actions, which can be stern and ruthless. It's like going from a pleasant spring to a chilly autumn. This duality is what makes Baochai so intriguing. When dealing with her, you may be charmed by her gentle demeanor and feel like basking in a warm spring breeze. However, you should also be cautious and pay attention to her actions, as they can be as intense and unforgiving as autumn. That's how Tu Ying evaluates Baochai. He said that Baoyu already saw through Baochai a long time ago. Baoyu carefully observed her and knew that Baochai is a heartless person. Remember that time they celebrated Baoyu's birthday in the Daguan garden? They played a drinking game, right? They each drew lots from a jar, and each lot had a poem representing a different flower. So, what lot did Baochai draw? She got a peony, and it had the words on it saying, "Even in ruthlessness, she is still enchanting." Baoyu held on to that lot drawn by Baochai, staring at it for a while, thinking something but not saying it out loud. From this detail, we can understand that Baoyu must have felt that the lot perfectly suited her, with the words indirectly referring to Baochai, meaning that even though she's heartless, she still has a captivating presence. So what does Baoyu already know? That she is heartless. We can connect all these details and give them some thought. That's Tu Ying take, Baoyu has really figured it out. My view, this argument reveals the deep, mysterious aspects of Baochai's character, but it fails to grasp her grand ambition to contribute to society at large. That's why it doesn't fully comprehend the reasons behind her tragic fate. It's not just about her personal desires. My thought comes from a different perspective. We shouldn't have such expectations for Tu Ying. What I mean is that we need to have a comprehensive understanding of Baochai, right? If you've read up to the 56th chapter, you'll realize what kind of person Baochai is. She's someone with big dreams and a long-term perspective, not just driven by selfish motives. It's not fair to put too much pressure on Tu Ying. But when we look at Baochai, we should also see her remarkable and extraordinary side. And remember, I mentioned it before, during the Political Bureau meeting on the Central Working Conference for Reform and Opening Up, there was one person missing, right? It was Baochai, and the rest of the people there were mostly like Tan Chun, weren't they?